Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today kicks off a really fun challenge. I am taking on a Olympic size romance reading challenge. Now, what the heck does that mean? I have selected 10 romance books that I have been trying to read between physical copies that I own, Kindle Unlimited, recommendations that I just keep hearing. I have selected 10 books and I am going to take them on in a challenge. I'm going to score them. I have 5 different categories that I'm looking at, and then after I get through all 10 of them, we will decide who is awarded 2024 Olympic-sized reading challenge gold medal. Who will win? I have selected 5 categories, and I'm first up, characters. And when I'm talking about characters, I want to talk about, do I agree with the way that they have been written? Because I can get annoyed by characters pretty easily. I will be thinking about that, honestly. Like, does this character annoy me? And most of the time, it is the male main character that is annoying me the most. But I am going to really try to put those feelings aside and think about the book as a whole. Were the actions of the characters living up to how I thought the story should go? And everything is going to be scored from a 0 to 5 basis. Next category is romance. Like, did our couple have chemistry? Did I want to see them get together? How was the banter? I'm a big banter person because as a reader, you're not watching a couple, you're potentially hearing both sides of how they're feeling about each other, but you're not getting much. You don't get to see their body language. So banter is super important to their chemistry. Like, when I'm really sensitive to when, like, the guy's mean and he thinks that's funny. Like, I'm like, okay, girl, what is the redeeming qualities of this choice of this man? Ugh. Next up, spice. And I'm not just like, oh, was it super spacey? Was it not super spacey? I want to look at if the spice made sense. Did it add to the storyline? Did it subtract from the storyline? I know that sounds weird, but I've definitely read books where I'm just like, I haven't gotten enough development for this to be spicy yet. It's not hitting for me. So we'll see spice. Fourth category, I'm talking about the writing. Was I sucked in? Like, and I'm not saying I am very much not a technical editor or someone who is crazy about typos and grammar. I actually am shocked when I find a typo because that is not how my brain works. I want to talk about the readability of the writing. Is it something that I want to curl up on my couch and not put down? Or is it something that I feel like I'm just trying to slog through to get to the climax, to get to the resolution of our characters? I find sometimes that I fall in love with a character, but I don't like the story they're in, and I have to kind of follow them on their journey because that's the only one they have. First world reading problems rather. Finally, my 5th category is the ending of a story. So many times I read a book, fall in love until 75% in, and then I am just like, what the ever-loving hell is going on? So I am definitely going to be critiquing the endings. Did I enjoy them? Did I think they made sense? That's the other thing. Like, I am 100% docking points for proposals that happen in the epilogue. There is nothing that I hate more than proposals that happen 8 months later in the epilogue. No. You are definitely not getting a 5 out of 5 on the ending if that's happening. Just so you know. Now for the books that I am reading for this first challenge for part 1. I have a Megan Quinn book. This is Bridesmaid for Hire. I haven't read Megan Quinn in about a decade. I had to look at my Goodreads because she sounded so familiar. I couldn't place her, couldn't think about what I had read of hers. I read some football series, but I only have the fourth one or the third one marked on Goodreads. But I probably read the other ones. I don't know. That's not about this book. This book is about workaholic Maggie who runs her own wedding consulting business in San Francisco, and she's going on her first vacation in a very, very long time. She's finally enjoying some time in paradise when an enemy runs right into her, and that is Brody, her best friend's brother. Hi, real quick. Editing Kayla noticed that filming Kayla made a bit of a mistake, and it's a doozy. Brody is not her best friend's brother. He is her brother's best friend. And that's why there's this element or this like micro trope of he can't have her because he's worried about his friendship with her older brother Gary. There's like a 7-year age gap between them, so there is a bit of an age gap again, but they're both adults at this point. Just wanted to make sure I cleared that up for us all. Back to what I was saying. Who's always just been a little tense around her. There's definitely some feelings of annoyance, hate. They are often teasing each other, and he is there for a wedding for his boss, who is the owner of the resort and a lot of other properties. And Maggie sees this as an in to potentially get some new business. So she ends up posing as Brody's girlfriend for the week. They are sharing one cabana, one bed. So many tropes, like all of the tropes are just like hitting me. I've started this one already. I'm 100 pages in. Cute. Super, super cute. The banter, very witty. I also like the matchup that I have of books for this round, not even knowing it, because I find that Maggie, our female main character, reminds me a lot about our female main character in Icebreaker, Anastasia, because of the way that they're just like firecrackers. Both of these girls say some pretty raunchy shit. It's hilarious. And it comes from a place of people don't expect it. And I think as a reader, I'm not expecting it either, so it just hits so much harder. Like, I've had several laugh out loud moments reading Bridesmaids for Hire so far. So I have, I'm gonna go to my Maggie notes. I have that she's a workaholic, but she's also a creative. She has this magnetic energy they describe her as having, but she gets herself into trouble. But she can also have fun at any occasion and lights up a room. I'm not gonna lie, I was like, ooh, I think I like Maggie because I got some Maggie energy. But I also just think she is unpredictable, and her and Brody are, it seems like Brody has some feelings that he doesn't want to have for her, and there's a lot of book left, so I think we're gonna get some love and spice and fun in this one. I have some notes on Brody as well. Brody is like a teaser. He takes what he wants, but he seems to have been pining for Maggie for a while. I think they have chemistry right off. Yes, I do. There was definitely like chemistry right off the bat. I didn't love how forward Brody was in like one of their opening scenes, but I don't want to fully judge him as a character until I've concluded his story. Moving on now to Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I'm reading this one on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm super glad that I am, because I think last month, or this month rather, July, I have read way more on Kindle Unlimited than I have in a while, which just makes me feel good about my subscription. And I also got a lot of really great book recommendations the last time I was in Barnes and Noble. So many of those are on Kindle Unlimited, so I find myself just feeling smart for saving money. So back to Icebreaker. Our two main characters are Nathan, who is the captain of his hockey team, and Anastasia, who is a competitive figure skater. She is a doubles figure skater, so she skates with a male partner, and they are headed to the competition season before the Olympics. She is an Olympic hopeful. I don't remember if she is Anastasia, or Stas is a type A person. She plans everything down to the time that she does the dirty. She literally has a guy who she's seeing that he's like scheduled in her planner, and like I gotta give it to her. It's efficient. So she's super type A personality, super strict about her training schedule, her diet, everything that's surrounding her life and her competition schedule. The forced proximity trope appears almost instantaneously when one of the two ice rinks at the school is melted because of some silly hockey prank, and now the hockey team and the figure skaters are going to have to share the ice, which pisses Stas off right from the get-go. And I like that she doesn't let up. Like, she's mad, she should be mad. I hate that I'm like 30% into the book and the hockey team still thinks it's funny to go over their allotted practice time because it pisses the figure skaters off. Like, yeah, because you agreed to a time. Like, it's not like a teehee, that's funny, cute thing. Like, don't say you're gonna do it and then don't do it. Things like that drive me nuts. But I will say this is definitely a book written for a modern audience. And what I say when I mean that is I am coming back to romance reads after a really long time away. Like, I haven't heavy read romance books in about 8 years, maybe closer to 10 years. Like, I'm talking, I used to read close to 100 a year. I've noticed that there's a trend to really vocalize things like consent, being able to take away consent. There's a lot of talk about therapy in books. There's a lot of really what I like to call green flag conversations that are happening between couples. And I really love it. I think it's the perfect pivot to a modernized society. A lot of the times when I read books that are older, a lot of the dialogue is written in a manner that puts women down. And for a while, it was just kind of like, teehee, that's romance. They fall in love at the end. It's okay. He's her husband. And I really like that we're seeing a trend of no, like that's not okay. Like, you should always treat your partner with respect. You should treat other people with respect. Yeah, just appreciate it. I just need to finish talking about Nathan, who is our hockey captain. He's like the too good guy. His whole like fatal flaw is that he's like really rich, but his dad doesn't love him or doesn't care about him, which is honestly so boring of a storyline. I don't even know if I have it right. There will be some climax there, but I don't really care about that. What I do care about is the way that he treats his friends, the way that he treats his team. One of my favorite characters in this book is getting his own story, and that's Henry. And I think Henry is just a shining star example of how a secondary character can just make a book so much better. He makes all of the scenes that he's in better. Like, I'm 100% going to enjoy his story a lot more than I'm enjoying this one I'm reading now, which is funny. I also, if you've ever watched Degrassi The Next Generation, like, he's Connor. He's giving Connor, and then I saw the artwork for his book, and I was like, it's even more Connor. So let me know. Any Degrassi fans? So I'm like 36% in Icebreaker. Like I said, I am about 100 pages in to Bridesmaid for Hire. So I am going to get to reading this one this evening because I want to try to keep them at the place where I'm finishing them around the same time so I can really ruminate about both books in the same mood, if that makes sense. Hello again. I have finished up both of our books. I want to remind you of the categories that I will be scoring them, and I'm going to start with just a couple of things that I noticed after finishing both books that were similarities between the two. I think I mentioned that they're both longer books. Both of them were over 400 pages, and enemies to lovers trope dual POV. They were both very spicy in their own ways, and there were little things about each that I really enjoyed, and little things about each that I definitely got annoyed by. I am going to start with the book I finished first, which was Icebreaker, and I actually started Bridesmaid for Hire maybe 2 days before Icebreaker, but I just inherently read quicker on my Kindle. So I crushed this one a little quicker, but I did make sure that I finished these on the same day and recorded my thoughts about Icebreaker before I finished Bridesmaids for Hire because I did want to. I'm like grading them against each other, scoring them against each other rather, but I did want to give them each a chance to stand on their own as reads, and I really did try to be fair. I'm one of those people that if I enjoy a book, I enjoy a book. I'm gonna say it's a 4 star. If I am like taken away by a book, that's a 5 star read for me. I probably have read more 2 star books in my life, but if I enjoyed any part of it, I'm probably not gonna give it a 2 star because I'm just kind of like that. So, in this challenge, I really try to be a little more critical about the reading. Again, this isn't the end of the world. These are my personal thoughts about these romance books, and it's really going to be okay. So, with that being said, I was a little harsh. I felt harsh when I went back, but harsh in a fine way. So, starting with Icebreaker, that was our figure skater and our hockey player, Anastasia and Nathan. And character wise, I was really into these characters. I also appreciated that we had the dual POV because I thought it added to the story. Getting to hear Nathan's point of view really did help just add to things. Loved it. I gave them a 4 out of 5, and it wasn't just because of our main characters. This is one of those books where the secondary characters steal the show. I also think that there were so many characters. That's why I didn't give this category a 5 out of 5 because there were actually too many characters and too many things going on. I appreciated the side plots, but there were some secondary storylines that just didn't make sense. Like Ryan, Olivia, all of those things were just too much on top of having a bunch of hockey players, her friends, the figure skaters, his family, her parents, just like a ton of stuff going on. I will say for such a long book, I feel like it was actually jam packed full of things. So solid 4 out of 5 stars for me for our characters. Next, the romance section. This is one of those places where I felt like I can feel myself getting really harsh, and that's fine. Again, it's okay. I ended up giving them a 3 out of 5, and here is why. I liked them. I thought that the conversations that they had in the book were full of green flags. I loved it. I loved that they talked about their feelings, the way that they communicated, A plus. But I don't feel like they had chemistry. Like, I feel like it was, they just wanted to have this sexual tension and this like spice, and I didn't get as much of like the fun. The things that they like set, one of the problems they set up in the book in the description is that Stassi doesn't know if she can fall for a hockey player. I think that was just like played into way too much. And I think that's why I found that our characters had spice, but not exactly love or chemistry. Speaking of the spice, I thought it was peppered in well. There were a few scenes, but there was also so much going on in the storyline. It was nice and spicy. It worked for this book, and because of that, I ended up giving them a 4 out of 5. And again, I think it helps because I liked our male main character, Nathan. He's pretty solid, like pretty much a green flag. I think other than the weird dad storyline, which is like family troubles, that's its own trope, that's its own part of the book. I just felt like there was so much going on, and they had her family stuff as well. Maybe it was just like too much overload, and because of that I just like couldn't care as much about him and what had happened, which is sad, but just that's how I felt. That's how I felt. So yeah, Nathan was just kind of boring. I think that was like the only like bad thing about him. When it comes to the writing, I had to give this a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Once I started it and got past that like 15% point where I've met our characters and I kind of know where our story is going to go, I read it pretty quickly. It was one that I didn't find myself hate reading at all. I I read it at a quick pace and it was enjoyable to me. I also just want to say that reading these two authors next to each other is just makes it so apparent to me that Megan Quinn, who is a fantastic romance writer, she's just like of another era. And I wanted to look it up because I had read a bunch of Megan Quinn when I was in high school and when I was in college. So I wanted to see what was that era. And it was 2014 was when her first book series came out. So knowing that, I understand that it's just Megan Quinn is a romance author of a different time, and her books have gotten more modern, but they aren't going to have as modern of a feel as a fresh. This is Hannah Grace's debut novel, and this is a fresh author. And I appreciate the fresh takes that romance books are taking. Not that either are bad, but I am learning that I have more modern preferences, and I'm trying to be more tolerant to books that I probably would have gobbled up and loved in the past. So that's all I have to say about that. Finally, I was like so good. I was loving this, loving this. I was like, yes, this is fantastic. And then I got to the last 15 pages and I was just like, what? I was mad. Like, I'm literally, this is a 2 out of 5 ending for me. It's everything I hate about this type of ending. Just everything. Like, it's not just unrealistic, but it's like unsatisfying because of the way you got there. You didn't get any of the reward. I think that's my thing. I believe some authors speed up time and do a bunch of things in the epilogue as like a treat to the reader, like especially in books that are typically happy endings, which are most romance novels. Like it's truly inevitable most times. And if they're not together in the first book, it's probably a series and they're probably going to get together at some point. So you'll get there. So knowing that, I think authors sometimes will give us that epilogue, that peek of what happened next. For me as a reader, I'm an imaginative reader. So like I like imagine the scenes in my head. And I don't like to just jump and skip. Like yeah, I don't know. The ending just it was not it for me. But I did really enjoy the writing, the style, the characters. I will for sure be going back for Henry's story, Daydream, I think it is. And I think, and I know there is a sequel. It's Wildfire that's out now, also on Kindle Unlimited. Right now, my Kindle is stuffed. I need to stop. Like I do. But I guess I don't because Kindle Unlimited, I can keep going, but I need to work through what I have. And I'm in the middle of this romance challenge, so I know the next 8 romance books that I'm reading, which is actually a little hard for me. I also have a few books from the library that I have renewed one last time. So I either need to decide if I'm going to read those just kind of within my challenge or what's going to go on there. Enough rambling. Let's tally this up. I finished off Icebreaker and I scored it with a 17 out of 25, which is, I think, a fantastic start. It was a really solid book for me, other than that just little bit of ending, but honestly, I can probably just like convince myself that that didn't happen and be okay with where we landed. Okay, well, so with Bridesmaids for Hire, I gave my update. There was about 100 pages in, and things honestly just devolved from there. I wanted this to keep getting better. I loved the concept, but honestly, it just kept getting longer. And I'm reading in this challenge with 2 books up against each other, so naturally I'm reading them kind of pitting them against each other, and with them being so similar in page length, it's amazing how I feel like absolutely nothing happened in this book, where Icebreaker had so many things going on all the time, so many characters, and moved through time relatively quickly, very quickly, I will say. This takes place over like 10 days, or the first like 10 days and then like a couple weeks. But it doesn't feel that way. It feels like literally forever. I felt like nothing happened. And I also thought that the more I was reading about what was happening to our female main character, the more upset I was getting for Maggie, because this was supposed to be her freaking vacation. And I was all set to love Maggie, and I do. I do love Maggie as a main character. I don't agree with her and her choices, but that's fine. But Brody was incredibly insufferable. It was, I have many notes in this book that just I wrote about how much I hated him because he drove me nuts. Yeah, men are stupid. I'm so mean. The I can't have her trope. That, I think that was one of the biggest things that annoyed me. It was like all of these things that were happening in Brody's life were problematic, sure, but I felt like he just handled them like a baby, and that made me hate him. I also thought he was written so inconsistently, because who is this guy? There are pictures in this, which I really love the pictures, these like really cool illustrations. And it shows this like tall, hot, muscular, suave guy who is written like he is an absolute bumbling idiot. And I'm not getting, he's not written like an idiot that's like, oh, that's teehee funny cute. He's also an asshole. And I'm getting too many things. He can't be this goofy guy that has all these really silly rituals, and but also this big jockey sports guy that kissed 300 girls in college. It's just like, it was just weird. He was written like he was trying to be too many guys, and I hated every single one of them. And I'm going to end up just putting the spoiler in, even though I told myself I wasn't going to do spoilers, because if you've read this book, you'll get it. I think what makes me most mad is what this book could have been, because we have Maggie who is going to this resort for a break, and the whole thing is like, Brody tells her, well, you're never going to find anyone who's single here. That was the stupidest thing you could do, with some bullshit. If he wouldn't have been there, she might have actually met one of the boys, Hardy and Hudson, Hardy or Hudson, like one of the rich guys who were single on the island where she was. So Brody, if you weren't in this book, I probably would have enjoyed it, because I would have gotten to see Maggie have her fun, sexy, spicy island getaway that she freaking deserved, and not the train wreck you left her with. Spoiler over, but I'm still not over it. And again, I don't want to be hung up on what I wish this book could have been, but I just don't think it was a great execution of this story. It could have been so much better. Romance. One of the problems with the romance in this book is, and it's just the nature of this trope, it is a fake dating trope, one bed trope, but they have to go on like public-esque dates. So they have to act like they're a couple when they're out. And so because of that, all of that banter and all of that romance is has that faux element to it. And sometimes I can see the genuine love for each other coming out, but I felt like all of those scenes with Brody and Maggie, they were fighting. I felt like they didn't ever, like, they were never on the same page until like they were, because they had a bunch of drinks, and that's annoying to me. I don't think that's romantic, so I did end up giving them a 2 out of 5 for their romance. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did give them a 2 out of 5 for our spice. I wanted to, again, because I wanted to like this book more, I had different expectations for it, but I'm trying not to live in those expectations. But for me, it was a 3 out of 5 spice. I thought the spice was good. It made sense. It did not detract from the storyline. It actually ended up being involved in a silly storyline with the guests, which I thought was clever and fun. But unfortunately, because I hated our male main character so much, it just wasn't great for me, and I hate the way that they got together, because I feel like it is just a just stupid. It's just, I hate that trope. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's annoying to me when that happens. So that was a 3 out of 5. And then moving on to the writing, I also ended up giving the writing a 3 out of 5, because I did really appreciate the humor in this book. I liked, we had a best friend. I believe Maggie's best friend's name is Hattie. And Hattie actually might be another character from another book. The way they talk about her book boyfriend, sounds like he has had his story somewhere. So maybe I'll look that up in the edit. I liked her. I liked her like banter with her best friend. I always like that part of a book. I also thought that Maggie herself was a bit of a spitfire, which was always entertaining. And Brody just annoyed me, so that made me not want to read it. I got to a place in this book where I was just like, yep, I'm hate reading. Some more nice notes about what I thought about Brody. This is on page 220. He's actually psychotically abusive and hates himself. So yeah, I really maybe that's when I started hate reading. There was a point where I realized this one was on Kindle Unlimited, so I pulled it up on there to finish it. But one of the things that you miss in the Kindle Unlimited version versus the printed version are all of these illustrations. There were, I think, 5 of them throughout the book, which is fun. But yes, I did end up reading the end on Kindle Unlimited because I needed to end it for myself. But hilariously, I actually enjoyed the ending. I spent so much time bashing our male main character, our book boyfriend. I put him down. I will still continue to put him down. But ultimately, I like where our story ended. I thought it made sense for our characters. It was realistic, and I like that. Now, I do understand that there's a sequel. It comes out August 20th. It will be on Kindle Unlimited, and it's like a partner story, so it's 2 other characters that we were introduced to. So you understand that she probably didn't do a time jump because of that, because there is going to be a second story, and these characters probably will make an appearance. I won't care because I really didn't like him, and it made me sad because I wanted to like this one, and I will eventually read the second book, but I think I need to step away from the trauma for a little bit. But I did end up giving that ending a 3 out of 5, which leaves my total for Bridesmaids for Hire to be 13 out of 25. So that will not take the gold in this round. Icebreaker is our winner with 17 out of 25. That's a great score, a great way to start the challenge. And here is a reminder of what 10 books I'm going to be taking on during this few weeks. Hopefully, a few weeks. Hopefully, not any longer than that. We'll see how long it takes me. I am already started with our next read, which is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. And then on my Kindle, it's Flawless by Elsie Silver. I'm only a little bit into Flawless and just a little bit more into Not in Love. I think I'm really going to like both of these. This is my first Ali Hazelwood book, and I I noticed there is a like an author's note talking about how this one is a little bit more serious than some of her other lighter Rami calmier feeling books, but I am excited to read this one nonetheless. I think I'm going to really connect to our female main character Rue, and hopefully I can tolerate Eli. And then over here in Flawless, I feel like we've definitely met both of our characters. He's a bull rider. She is the daughter of he owns like I don't want to say a bull riding consulting business because that's definitely not what it's called, but like those things. He does those things. So we'll see. I really enjoyed Wild Love. I read it last month and it was awesome. I will be continuing on with that series, but then I noticed, or rather I read, that there were characters from the Chestnut Springs series that I hear so many wonderful things about, so thought I would add it to my challenge. Are there any books on here on my 10 that you've read that you think are gonna win? Do you know? Has anybody read all 10 of these books? For me, this was a great way to do 2 things: tackle some of my physical books in my TBR pile and similarly tackle a bunch of books on Kindle Unlimited on my TBR list because I feel like that list grows every single day by like 10 books, and then I have not enough time to read them and it makes me sad. But then instead of reading the books that I have on my to be read Kindle list, I find other books for myself to read or watch about other people talking about books. So if you're stuck in that vicious cycle, you're welcome. Me too. Thank you for being here. But no, seriously, thank you so much for being here today. I enjoyed hanging out with you. Part 2 of this Olympic-sized romance reading challenge is underway and will be out shortly. Until then, be on the lookout for a couple other videos I have in the works. I have a huge summer book haul I definitely need to talk about, even though you've been seeing a lot of these books already. I also have a 24-hour reading challenge that I've been sitting on getting ready to edit. I'm getting in the zone, people. We'll get there. But I really appreciate our time. I am across a few other platforms. I am trying to grow myself in the book community across all spaces and really continue to show up for myself and for this community. So I really appreciate you being here. Please subscribe, like, and leave a comment, and I hope you have a great day.